Here's what I know. Work brings dignity. Work brings productivity and a feeling of worth. Work brings the potential of social interaction, which in turn diminishes depression and loneliness. Work brings self-esteem. Work brings pride. Work can bring money that can in turn dial down stress. When you have a chronic condition, work can also bring the inability to accommodate your disease, to have to work through your illness rather than resting or having therapy. Conventional work can bring stress and more illness. It's for all of those reasons that I'm creating a digital course and membership community called Patients Getting Paid. The course will teach you how to find patient advocacy gigs, how to find legitimate, flexible remote work, and how to start an online business, all of which can accommodate chronic conditions. The membership will provide community with others going through the training and settling into this new lifestyle with you. I hope you'll come for the course and stay for the community. Sign up today at FUMSnow.com/patients getting paid, and I'll send you an email when I launch. Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan-Young. Welcome to the fifth in the series on international MS diagnosis and treatment stories, where I'm interviewing people from several different countries to hear what their experiences are like in comparison to ours here in the U.S. This series has been incredibly interesting, and today's interview is no exception. My guest today is Col Chandler, a surfer, artist, entrepreneur, and energetic MS ambassador from Queensland, Australia, who was diagnosed in 2014. Col is relentlessly positive, seeing his diagnosis with primary progressive MS as an opportunity for change. He is fearless, and he finds the fun and the funny in every situation. He is the epitome of an FUMSer. Can't wait for you to meet him. You'll be glad you did. So, hi, Col. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
G'day, and no problems. My privilege.
I love that. G'day, mate. Having a little shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah, we don't have little ones. We just have big ones.
That's right, those big prawns. That was it for my Australian accent, actually.
Yeah, it's better than my American one, but I feel
So thanks again for being here. If you don't mind, let's start with your diagnosis story. If you could maybe tell us, I don't know, what type of symptoms did you start with, and go into your whole diagnosis story. If you don't mind, that would be great.
Okie dokie. Well, I've been a fairly extreme sportsman for a long time, and skiing and snow skiing and surfing, two of my greatest passions. And I was surfing in the Maldives on a reef break called Honky, which is a lovely big wave on a reef, and I noticed that I just couldn't actually stand up properly. My left leg was collapsing all the time, and I couldn't turn the board. And not long after that, I came back and I mentioned that to the doctor, and he pointed out that I'd lived a stupid life falling off things, including mountains and trees, horses, motorbikes, and that was obviously the problem. I went skiing in Japan not long after that, and the same thing happened. So, whereas I'd been a perfectly okay skier, all of a sudden I couldn't even stand up, and I just fell over all the time. And in hindsight, things had been going for a long time before that. But because of the way I'd lived life in a fairly extreme fashion, I guess I'd pushed a lot of that to the back and thought it was just me slowly destroying my body. But, anyway, I hobbled into the doctor eventually and said, no, this isn't me doing stupid stuff. What's going on? So I went first to one neurologist who said, no, you're fine, don't be silly. I didn't really believe his diagnosis and asked for a second opinion, which I got from a doctor, oddly enough, or a neurologist with Parkinson's disease. And he was very quick off the mark and identified it was MS, and then told me I had to go and find out what sort. and that was a revelation because I was unaware that there were thoughts.
Right.
He'd also said that it could possibly be motor neurons, so that was a bit nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm.
So I went off to a third neurologist who put me into hospital. I had an MRI, I had a spinal tap, and they came in and told me I had MS, and I gave them a high five and told them I was delighted. I didn't particularly want MND. And then they told me I had primary progressive, and I said, that sounds like a really good school for my kids. Like primary progressive, wow, what's that? And they sort of shook their heads somberly and told me, no, that's not necessarily a good thing.
Not a good thing.
So that whole process end to end probably took somewhere in the order of maybe 3 to 4 years from me sort of proclaiming that I didn't think this was caused by me. And to put it in context, and to be fair to the medical profession, I've ridden a mountain bike off the side of a mountain. So, they did have good reason to think that I was
right.
and fundamentally because I am an idiot. But, when your body's just not answering the call, you think back and you go, this has been going on for some time. So when they gave me the diagnosis, they said, look, it's probably been, the best we can establish is, somewhere in the order of 12 to 14 years. That just proves what you can do when you ignore all sorts of symptoms, I guess. But,
right.
The end-to-end process was partly delayed by me, partly delayed by the medical profession being a little slow. But once the diagnosis was in, the degree of support that came with the diagnosis was quite quick. I mean, they started while I was still in hospital, having recuperated from spinal tap.
Mm-hmm. So, once you were diagnosed, did you look back and think, oh yeah, I remember when this happened and maybe that was MS? I mean, are you aware of symptoms now that you just kind of slept off?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm pretty lucky in that I've got Crohn's disease as well. And, sometimes they tend to overlap. They're both autoimmune diseases. They both cause fatigue. So a lot of what I put down to the Crohn's disease was actually more probably MS. It's got its benefits because I can now say to my friends that I surfed with, look, I know I was a pretty crap surfer, but, I was a crap surfer because I had MS. So
it's the MS.
I would have been a world champion otherwise. So
right. I like that.
Thanks. You're right. You look back and you go, oh, duh, of course.
Right.
So exhausted all
That's what that was. Yeah. So you said that the support started right away while you were in the hospital. So first of all, let me just ask you, were you hesitant at all to go into the hospital for testing? I mean, did you think, wow, this is going to be really expensive. I'm not sure if I should take the time or the money to go in there and have all these tests run. We're not sure what this is.
No. I was determined to find out what was going on.
Yeah.
I'd already had the pre-diagnosis from the other neurologist, so I thought, right, well, I want to get started on whatever I've got to do to try and mitigate this. And,
Smart.
I need someone to tell me what I can do, what's in my control. So the psychological aspect was easy. That was like no-brainer. I'm there, and there was no delay in me getting there. The cost, some of the costs were covered by our nationalised health scheme. Some of the costs were covered by my private health cover. There was a little bit of out of pocket, but it wasn't substantial. The MRI was covered. The spinal tap and the few days in hospital was actually on my private health cover. But I could just as easily have gone through the public system and had all that done for nothing.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I did not know that you also had, private health coverage option. So if you could have that all done through the public option? Why do you have private then?
Oh, I just don't like delays. So the
Oh,
public, like any public system, has got a big waiting list, and you got to wait a long time. It's actually very good, very good treatment. There's no disparagement there, but you got to wait, and I'm not good at waiting.
right. So
So,
it's purely so that you can get in sooner,
yeah.
be seen faster. Gotcha. Okay, well, good that you have that option then. Excuse me. So what? All right, they told you that it is MS, and not only is it MS, but it is primary progressive MS. So now what? Did they tell you what was the next step? And did you start immediately while you were in the hospital?
Yes. So they sent in occupational therapists. They sent in the exercise physiologist and a range of other people to sort of have a chat about what you could and couldn't do, where I should go for certain services. So it was very supportive in that regard. At the same time as they were doing that, I wrote what I call a life plan, which is, okay, so now I know what I've got. Here's the list of the things I can't do anymore. Here's the list of the things I can, and here's the list of the things that I'm not sure about. And this is how I'm going to adjust my sort of life trajectory, because, one of the big things with MS is, well, that kind of screws up what I thought I was going to be doing.
Yeah, truth.
And I thought the best thing I could do early on was acknowledge and accept that fact and then get on with setting a new plan. So they were pretty fascinated by that, because they were more focused on here's the physical things that you can do. And here's things like orthotics you can use for your leg, and here's, what we recommend you do when you get home, and all of that. Secondarily, they suggested I contact the MS Society here, which is, you have equivalents over there. And they were fantastic. They were really helpful. They provide a physiotherapist service and psychology services and all sorts of other support mechanisms.
Good.
Like everybody, I think I was kind of, shell shocked for the first few months, just sitting there going, wow, really? Oh,
right.
Well, that's a pain in the ass, but or bum, as you'd be inclined to say. And that first few months is kind of valuable, I think, in a way, because you do tend to have to really sit down and think long and hard about where to from here.
True.
And what's it all mean. And the support from the MS Society was great there. At about that point, the support from the nationalised network tends to drop back off. They're like, neurologists are basically really good mathematicians in a way, in that they sort of count the number of lesions in and out, and they give you a few tips here and there. And the GPs are very handy for telling you what you should take, but learning all the other tricks that go with managing MS it's a private journey, and one where you reach out to other people to find out what they've done, and what works best and what doesn't work. And I guess at the same time, I got inundated with every self-help cure known to humankind. 20,000 people.
Yep. I think the listeners all can relate to that.
Yeah, I think I sort of ended up thinking I should be sitting under a pyramid with a tinfoil hat eating cornflakes. But, luckily I'd been doing Zen meditation for 10 years. That was really helpful. And I've got a wife who's a yoga instructor, and that was really helpful. And
good.
Exercising. I've been an exercise nut for a long time. So I think the best piece of advice I got from the hospital when I was in there was exercise. Lots of exercise. And
excellent.
I was sort of expecting here's a list of drugs, go home and don't stand up again.
Yeah. What year were you diagnosed?
was only 5 years ago. So,
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that'll tell you how long I left it.
Well, I was diagnosed 11 years ago, and I don't know that this was all that common at this point, but my first neurologist, which is one of the reasons that he is not my current neurologist, he said, don't exercise. Just take it as easy as possible. Don't do anything. Just rest. And there's nothing you can, nothing you can do diet wise. It just ridiculous. So I'm glad that that was not what you were hearing at that point.
Oh, look, I did hear it. Well, yes, I most certainly heard it from my local general practitioner and various other well-meaning folk who said, look, by all means exercise, but the minute you start to feel a little tired, stop. And, rest. And, I kind of, I didn't buy it anyway, but
yeah.
I'm
not really your style.
Well, I was talking to my new neurologist about a month ago, and he said, in his opinion, 90% of people he diagnoses with MS go home, sit down, and don't get up.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
That's 90%. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
So, and, he openly acknowledges that, exercise is about the number one top of the pops when it comes to, retaining at least some form of lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's scary when they say just rest.
Yeah.
And it's common. By the way, it's common here.
Okay.
Common
That's a shame. But I'm glad you didn't buy it. I'm glad you kept moving.
I'm a deeply ingrained cynic, I'm afraid.
It has worked to your benefit, obviously. So just in terms of like protocol in Australia, so if you call to you need to see your primary care, do you need to see your primary care to see a neurologist, or do you just call whenever you want to see whomever?
Oh, you need a referral to see your neurologist, but that referral then can last for a year or 3 years or 5 years. So I can call my neurologist as often as I want without having to go through the primary care.
Okay. Just one time you need to at least have gotten a referral.
Yep.
Through your primary care. Okay. And does your neurologist want you to reach out if you have any, I don't know, new weird symptoms or anything like that? I mean, are you pretty much in touch pretty often?
No, I tend not to. And I guess in part that's because I don't believe there's an awful lot they can do. The problem for the neurologist is that they can count lesions in and out, and they can advise us what we might be able to do. But once you're on some form of drug protocol or other activity, then that's kind of it. There's not like in PPMS, and I have to emphasise it's so dramatically different from recurring remitting that you don't really get exacerbations. You don't have to be rushed to hospital to have a cortisone drip or anything. PPMS is just a long, steady decline. So they kind of generally just shrug and go, well,
yeah, right. This is part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, now I qualify that to say if I'm changing protocols, they're always very interested that I let them know quite quickly if there's any adverse reaction. That will be a global concept. But other than that, no, I tend not to.
So did they advise you right away while you were in the hospital as to a drug protocol?
No, they're a bit confused because with PPMS there wasn't one.
Right, that was my question when you mentioned it. Drug protocol.
So, to his credit, my neurologist said, look, I can't guarantee this will do anything, and the evidence is that it probably doesn't, but I don't think there's sufficient evidence to not try it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go to Galenia for a few years.
Okay.
And at the same time, I kept him in the loop about my exercise protocols. So, I use a very MS-specific set of exercises that are really focused on, the affected areas, but B, core and high-intensity interval training for, keeping the fatigue at bay, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked in tandem there. We agreed after a few years that Glenn wasn't working, so he cut me across to Ocrevus just in February this year. So,
okay.
and Ocrevus is the only thing that's been shown to have any effect on PPMS at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's as much up to me to find out and follow up as it is to the neurologist to guide.
Mm-hmm.
And my neurologist at least likes having an intelligent conversation about the patient's views of the treatment, as opposed to being sort of, you will take this, and this is what,
Mm-hmm.
has a discussion about it.
That's great. That's the way it should be.
I'm very lucky.
That's wonderful. So your doctor visits, are those covered by your national coverage, or is that privately covered? National?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't cover all of it. There's a gap, but it's not much.
Okay. And any testing? Same thing? That's all covered?
Most of it, yes.
Very nice.
Yeah, MRIs were not covered until recently. And that got a bit expensive. So every 6 months it was, sort of $400 to $500, and that's a bit of a belt. But no, it's a good system. It works.
Yeah, no joke. I'm really jealous right now. So, if you could give us a little background on you, were you working at the time?
Yeah, I had my own business. So I've been in the technology sector for a long time here and in the US, and running startups and advising startups and advising investment bankers and venture capitalists on how to commercialize technology. And, I think a lot of attention is placed on people that are in employment with somebody else.
Right.
And what do they do when they get MS? What's the employer do?
Yeah.
The conversation when you're self-employed is really different.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear this because I am self-employed. So I'm excited to hear the conversation that you had with yourself.
Well, I kept telling myself that I didn't think I was doing the job terribly well, and I might fire me if I didn't pull my thoughts up.
Straighten up and fly right in, fire in your ass.
Yeah. And then I asked if I could get a redundancy package. I said no. But my customers were lovely. I had one customer in particular, and they were up in an office at the top of a big set of stairs, and I rang them up and said, look, I can't come out anymore. I just can't do those stairs. And they said, oh, okay. And then they rang me and said, look, you need to come out to a meeting next week. And I said, oh, I told you I can't. And they'd moved. They'd moved the whole company into a low-set building with disabled parking out the front for me.
What?
So,
oh my God.
There was only 6 of them, but even so, that was, that
is phenomenal.
Yeah, so I putted along like that for a few years, gradually reducing the time because the fatigue was really in what I did, the fatigue and the inability to concentrate the way I was used to concentrating was starting to impact my ability to deliver what I felt was a good service. But, I've still got a small number of clients that gives me flexibility to, chat to them. My engagements are based on the fact that, look, I might not deliver you anything. I might not be available on the phone. You might not be able to contact me, and I might not turn up to the meeting, but I'm going to charge you anyway. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, but other than that.
And, I figure if they say yes to that, then they're worth keeping.
Yeah, those are some good clients to have for sure.
Yeah, at the same time, I felt that I needed a transition anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been doing what I'd done for a long time, and I thought the MS was a great opportunity for me to shift into doing my art on a more constant, full-time basis. And, that worked out really well. I started to sell my art. The Beach Boys toured the world with my art as a backdrop to their concerts in 2016.
Wow.
And it was basically using the MS or recognizing the MS as an opportunity for change, not necessarily diminishment.
I love that. I love that. You have such a great spirit about you. So, were you doing art prior to this, and this just gave you an opportunity to maybe concentrate
Yeah.
more on the art?
Oh yeah. No, I started out as a failed artist in the 70s, and I ended up in the tech sector because that was the only other creative outlet I could get. But you know, it's pretty hard to pay for a mortgage and bring up kids on an artist's income, really. So
Sure, I bet.
I was just lucky. I ended up in a sector I loved, doing work I loved, and I kept painting all the way through. And I combined that with my love of the ocean. So, I predominantly paint ocean scenes.
Mm.
And, that of all the treatments for MS that I've been told to undertake, that's by far the best because when I'm sitting painting, listening to music, I don't have any.
That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I mean, whatever your passion is, if you can really, get absorbed in it, I completely understand what you're saying. And one of my passions too is music. And I have music on all the time. And I think, if I don't have music on, I think too much. You know what I mean? The what ifs can get to you. So
Mhm.
I need music and I can and in switching up the music, I can switch up my mood. So if I need
Yeah,
something more upbeat, I can just turn it on. It really
yeah.
helps.
And look, these are the things that people aren't taught when they're diagnosed. You know,
Yeah, true.
like in what we've just discussed, there's an awful lot of hints. One is that, if we take recurring remitting with, 70% of young women with children,
Mhm.
and an awful lot of them lose their partner,
Mhm.
then why are we so insistent around the world on let's look at how traditional employment works for these people? Because bluntly, it doesn't. You know, we need to be teaching people how to start their own businesses from home, get some passion and enjoyment, be able to sit back and work on their, well, in your case, podcast, and in other cases, there's lots of people that have skills.
Mhm.
Problem is, there's no one there saying, right, well, that's what you did. Now let's figure out what you're going to do.
Amen, brother. And I'm just going to throw it out there that you and I have not spoken about this before because it sounds like you're an advertisement for something that I'm doing. And this was not a setup. I swear to everybody.
Should I hold up a little sign or something now
Yeah,
saying this is not
right.
paid advertising?
Exactly. Yeah, because I'm just coming out with an online course called Patients Getting Paid. And that is exactly the reason because there are a lot of opportunities out there that I just don't think people are aware of that I have sort of stumbled on, like this online business and affiliate marketing and podcasting, and there's just so many opportunities. And then I fell into patient advocacy, and there's an entire industry that I wasn't aware of. I stumbled into it, and I just felt like I got to share this with people because I think there's so much dignity in work and feeling productive
You
and
know, but
getting out of your head,
I
and
call it
just,
I call it the coffee shop conversation. So two scenarios. I'm 30. I've got MS. I've got two kids. I've got nothing to talk about because I can't get a job.
mm,
And
mhm,
I go to a coffee shop and have a conversation with my friends who are all talking about where they've been, what they've done, what their work is, and they're excited. Or alternately, I can be at that conversation and be equally passionate and engaged about what I'm doing. And that makes all the difference. Like
mm.
it's not it's not a cure; it's an inclusion.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, look, we're still here. We're not
Yeah.
invisible. We've just shifted.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and traditional employment can't cover that. I mean,
Cannot. Nope.
there's some good employers around that do, but by and large, what people lack is the knowledge that they need to set up their own business.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And that part, well, that can all be provided quite simply. Um, it's really giving them the confidence to step into a place that they haven't been and not stress about it.
That's true. Yep. I would say probably 80% of it is confidence or just being willing to try.
Yep.
I always say, I mean, don't be afraid to, and I'm using air quotes here, fail, because there's no failure unless you quit. And I've failed at a lot of things that I've tried. I haven't really failed because I've learned something from each and every time. And I bring it to the next thing. And, this online business and everything that I've found a way to, it all works with my illness. I mean, I can work from the hospital infusion center. I work from bed quite a bit. I work from my recliner. I lay down in the middle of the day, whatever I needed it to accommodate. And I found a way, but it was scary as hell and I screwed up a lot, but I just kept going, and it gives me something to do and something to feel productive at, and it just helps me more than any medication ever could.
Well, and you're paying it forward.
That's my goal. That's what keeps me going. Honestly, is I just want to help as many people as I possibly can help.
I mean, I do a bunch of silly stuff, and I acknowledge it's silly. I surfed a cyclone last year, which, when you can't walk and you can't stand up, is probably not the greatest thing in the world to do. But
coming from a guy that has ridden a motorbike off the side of a mountain, I guess not surprising.
Yeah, particularly stupid. But I wheelchaired up a mountain on a dirt track to raise money for MS, and none of these things are particularly me being heroic. It's me going, I wonder if, insert challenge here.
Right.
And what I found is that people with MS are very much like that. That there is a desire to want to still be engaged and give back and sort of get other people with MS empowered to feel like they can do the same.
Yeah.
We're in good company.
Right. I agree. There is kind of this personality. I think you alluded to it early on, may have even been before I hit record, but you said something about how MSers, are typically like busy people. I found there's an awful lot of us are type A. And it's tough for us to slow down. And I guess I just want to shake it up and say, you don't have to. Like, you just have to shift. You don't have to slow down. You just got to shift,
Well,
switch lanes,
your definition of slow's got to change, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I try and have a productivity goal, which sounds a little bit like a bloody Masters of Business course. So, every day I try and achieve one productive outcome, regardless of how I'm feeling, and I keep a diary list of what my goals are for the day. And even if I just hit one of those, I go to bed happy.
That's awesome. That is great. So I could talk to you about this all day long, but I'll switch back to our questions. Do you do any kind of ancillary treatments there, and are they covered? And by that, I mean like massage therapy, cryotherapy. I think you did mention, exercise therapy, but nutritional counseling. Are those things offered to you, and is that all covered?
Some are, some aren't. So
Okay.
cryotherapy isn't. Massage therapy is. Certainly physiotherapy is.
Mm-hmm.
Dietitians and nutritionists are.
Great.
Naturopathic treatments aren't.
Okay.
Yoga is provided through a physiotherapy centre.
Oh, great.
So
great.
it's sort of a mixed bag, and it's
Yeah.
changed because we've got a new scheme here called the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and it's just launched.
Mm,
And
okay.
bluntly, we're all getting our heads around what it means,
Yeah.
how we use it. But
Right.
it gives the individual the control of the funds the government gives them to access the treatments they feel they need within certain parameters.
Oh, that's great. Because who knows you better than you, right? You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
my wife.
Yeah. Um, so, okay, this is kind of a weird question because you are self-employed, but in general, what is your take on sort of how employers in Australia deal with a chronic illness like MS? I mean, do you think, had you been employed, do you feel like you'd have to keep it kind of on the down low? Would you not have disclosed that for fear of being fired?
Look, I don't really know because I've been self-employed for such a long time.
Yeah.
And that was because of the Crohn's disease.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had that from when I was, in my late teens. And
Mm,
I realised pretty early that I had to, you know, basically be my own employer because otherwise I wouldn't have the flexibility I needed
right.
with the disease. So, I'm kind of an aberrant case in that regard.
Mhm.
Look, I think most employers try really hard. Um, Naturally, they've got productivity goals and outcomes that they
Sure.
need to achieve. And if a person's unable to do what it is that they're being paid to do, then it's tough. Um,
Hmm.
and certainly the employers cop a fair bit of negative feedback if they do something. But you got. I understand that you got to make a profit in business, and
Sure.
sometimes hard decisions have to be made. But by and large, I'd say that the majority tend to try pretty hard to accommodate people with disabilities and other needs.
Excellent. Good. I'm glad to hear that. So, I guess, well, as you alluded, you've had Crohn's, so you've sort of been your own boss for a very long time out of necessity, really. So, um, I don't know about this next question. I was going to ask you about sort of, um, what, how have you set yourself up differently because of this long-term, progressive disease that you have now? I mean, um, well, I guess you said that for one thing, you've sort of decreased maybe your client load, but this probably the better question is probably what does your country provide, I guess, in terms of like retirement or even long-term care help? Is that completely on your shoulders as you progress, or is that something that is offered by your country?
No, it's not completely on my shoulders. The National Disability Insurance Scheme is very helpful, and that covers everything from home modification to assistive technology to mobility technology, physiotherapy, a range of stuff. That's all covered by
Covered.
the Australian government. And again, that's within sensible limits. I mean,
Sure.
I did ask for a helicopter, and they said no, which
Really?
I felt
That's
so so
terrible.
rude.
That is rude.
Um, and they said the same about the jet ski, but the um, on so I'm 63, which means that I'm approaching what nominally is the retirement age anyway. So I elected to access my own 401k and start using it because of the disease. And
Hmm.
I don't qualify for the pension, the retirement
Hmm.
benefits of a pension in that regard because of means test requirements.
Hmm.
So, look, I'd say it's pretty good coverage.
Hmm.
It's not, if you're self-employed and you've done okay, then the expectation is that you'll take care of yourself to an extent.
Hmm. So you have to have been.
So that's pretty much the US in that regard.
Yeah, true. You have to have been proactively planning for the future then, for sure. Just like
Yeah, and I have. I've been very, very lucky in that regard. That we've got a decent enough 401k, and we sort of were able to really get in and plan a ramp down on the activity and business front. And
right.
that kind of worked. And
Yeah.
I guess the other part is that I had a whole bunch of things that I wanted to do when I did retire, air quotes, and they included things like biking in various places and surfing trips, blah blah. But
Sure.
part of it was also then saying with my wife that, look, let's have a look at the things that we should probably do a bit more quickly.
Right.
We don't know how things are going to progress.
Yeah.
So, we spent a lot of time going away and, traveling and doing nice things together.
Yeah. Lots of bucket list items that were getting checked off.
Yeah. And some just got crossed off completely because they were just silly. So,
well, based on everything that your daughter was telling me that you're doing, I mean, it doesn't sound like you're slowing down much. Or if this is you slowing down, you make me tired.
Yeah. I was at the gym this morning and the exercise physiologist came up and said, you need to figure out where your medium speed range is. That's probably sound advice. But,
yeah.
Look, I think that's the same for all of us. The biggest task we face with MS is learning how to live a slower life.
Mm-hmm.
When we've all got very fast brains.
Yeah.
And, while our body is sort of going, our brain is firing away at supersonic speed. And, that is the thing that bugs everybody that I know.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's really a question of learning the skills of living a slower, more thoughtful life, but having it productive and achieving your objectives and being pleased with it. And we never get the balance quite right, do we? I mean, these days we just do it.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah,
that's so
but
true.
the meditation, I've got to say, has been very helpful with that.
And what do you find that helps with?
When you've got a steady stream of random thoughts popping through your head and you can't slow it down, Zen is fantastic for teaching you how to just put that back in its box and control.
Oh, excellent. I think a lot of people could really use that. I know I could.
It's the human race, I expect. But,
exactly.
It's okay when you're busy at work and, you're sort of running around frenetically in a job or, running from meeting to meeting. Your brain's going to be like that anyway.
Right.
When you get stressed, it's nature's way of grabbing you by the shoulder and telling you to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it doesn't have the same conversation with your brain and your subconscious. And, that's what really causes a lot of trouble for a lot of people. They struggle with, that steady sort of fire hose of thought.
Yeah. But you find meditation really helps that.
It does, yep.
That's some good advice. I do something that I'm confident is, pretty close, probably akin to meditation, which I just kind of go to my happy place where I just close my eyes and I think about where I'm happiest in this world. And then I just notice everything. So it's at this lake up in northern Minnesota, and I notice the chill of the grass under my feet, and I notice the smell of the lilac as I'm walking past it, and I notice the feel of the sunshine on my face, and it takes me away from everything else except everything that makes me happy, which just centers me, quiets everything else, and I feel like I have gone on vacation, which is lovely. So I think that's probably I mean,
meditating anyway.
it's probably meditating, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Good. They've already mastered it then. No. I think that's great advice. I think a lot of people, and you do yoga because your wife is a yoga instructor, and that's very helpful too, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, look, she's a great yoga instructor with a very poor student. So, she'd argue that, I'm generally very poor at turning up for my classes, but, I'm
She knows where to
very
find you.
lucky that I've got such a good yoga teacher here because, but there's so much that she knows about how you can stretch and change the body to, stop the bits that are hurting or,
Mm-hmm.
try and get a bit more bits that are atrophying and
Yeah, that's
slowly
great.
disappearing.
Good to have in your
Good.
back pocket for sure.
Absolutely. In
So,
my hip pocket.
yeah, right. So, this is a strange question, but I've been asking it of everyone in the different countries. So, I'll ask it of you. Is marijuana legal in your country and used for MS?
Yes, it is in medicinal purposes.
Okay,
Sorry, I've just been saying that.
that's okay.
Um, it's not really taken off terribly well because the doctors themselves are very hesitant to prescribe it.
Okay.
And oddly, it's not covered by the
Oh,
Medicare scheme. So, it could cost you several $1,000s a month to
wow.
get a prescription for cannabis oil.
Yeah, I can see why it
Um,
hasn't taken off then.
yeah, well, look, there's still a lot of people using various constructs of oils and
Mm-hmm.
cannabinoids, combinations of CBD, THC. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's simply a matter of time before
Yeah.
it gets approved
Mm-hmm.
at a more accessible level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably going to be more for MS and epilepsy and Parkinson's than most other things.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's really strange here because it has passed in a good number of states, but not federally. So it's really kind of a weird, you do this kind of weird dance here. I
Well,
don't know.
I was in California a couple of weeks ago, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was almost retail.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There in DC, it's funny.
Yeah.
So if you could change anything about diagnosis and treatment of MS in your country, what would it be? And you can say nothing if you think everything's great.
No, I think there's certainly changes, and this isn't a criticism of the system, but um, the the lack of speed in adopting learned lessons. So, if I take exercise as a classic example, um, the amount of evidence and research that's come out of major universities, including Harvard, where they are saying, without any qualification, certain forms of exercise are fantastic for MS
Mm-hmm.
of all types.
Mm-hmm.
But that took forever to filter through to doctors.
Right.
They sort of give it a nodding acquaintance and say, well, yeah, it can't do any harm. But as you said, often they'll say, well, don't overdo it. And,
Right.
take it easy and stop as soon
Mm-hmm.
as you feel a bit tired. So, I think that kind of the learnings about MS are going so fast, but the filtering through of all of that to neurologists and specialists in the field is too slow.
Mm-hmm.
Stem cell treatment, there's a good one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Like we use stem cell treatment for leukemia patients here. There's pretty strong evidence that in certain forms of MS it's quite beneficial.
Yes.
But, I think it'll be, 5 to 10 years before it's available here.
Mm. Hmm. Yep. That's a great example. Okay, if people would like to learn more about you, or reach out to you, or maybe see some of your artwork, is there a place where they can find you online?
Yep. Colchandler.com. So that's Col, Col, Chandler, CHANDLER.com. or they can get me on Facebook at Col Chandler. And there's a contact tab on my website anyway. So if somebody wants to just have a chat, we're a kind of unique family around the world because you can't have a conversation about MS with someone who doesn't have it.
That's a good point. That's a great point. Well, I've really, really enjoyed meeting you and talking to you and hearing your story. And you are, just as your daughter said you are, your spirit comes through, and it's a great spirit and a great vibe. And I've really enjoyed our conversation. I thank you so much for gifting us with your time and energy and choosing to spend it with us. And I hope everybody goes to your site and reaches out and chats with you. And we here in the FUMS Nation speak to this stupid disease as it deserves, and we tell it FUMS every day, and I know you do too. Would you please lead the charge with your middle finger extended on 3? Are you ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. FU.
Yeah.
There you go. Love it. Perfect. Thank you so much, Cole. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Keep up the fight.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS podcast show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.